Welcome to the Life Self-Mastery Podcast, where we bring in entrepreneurs who have created online businesses and improved their lifestyles. Here's your host, Rohit Malhotra.
Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Life Self-Mastery, and today I'm excited to have Greg Mercer, who's the founder and CEO of a suite of tools like Jungle Scout, Fletcher, JumpSend, and many others to empower Amazon sellers, as well as he's the owner of multiple physical products brands. He loves all things Amazon, and he loves big data and building company culture for a remote team of 100 plus employees. Welcome to the show, man.
Rohit, thank you very much for having me on. I'm excited to be here and to chat with you.
Awesome. So, how did you get your start in Amazon FBA, and why Amazon?
Great question. So, I went to university to be a civil engineer, and I got a job as such when I graduated. Shortly thereafter, I think I realized that I was very unfulfilled. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've had this strong entrepreneurial spirit my whole life. So I was really just looking for ways to make money outside my 9-to-5 job. And I literally just found out about selling on Amazon from, I think, just kind of searching around on the internet about it. So one thing led to another. I was able to kind of replace my income as an engineer by selling these physical products. After that, I quit my corporate job, went all in on it. So I was a full-time Amazon seller for a little while, which then led me to create Jungle Scout. And Jungle Scout is for those of you who aren't familiar, it's a tool to help you find profitable products or opportunities on Amazon. And I built this because my largest pain point at the time was figuring out which new products to launch on Amazon. So, I'd launch some, they'd be successful. I'd launch others and they weren't successful. And I didn't really know why at the time. Later to find out, just some of these have much more demand than others on Amazon. So this is what actually, led me to create Jungle Scout. So, with Jungle Scout, you can see how well any product on Amazon is selling. So you know right away what kind of demand there is for that product on the marketplace.
Got it. Yeah, you're trying to solve your own problem, and you came up with Jungle Scout. But are you still running FBA businesses, or is the focus totally on your SaaS business?
So I still have my physical products business. I'd say I spend about 5 or 10% of my time on it. I decided to keep it because it really kind of like keeps me in the know of like what's working and what's not working. You know what I mean? I'm worried that if I were ever to get rid of it, that I would start to lose touch with our end customer a little bit. So I do hold on to it, but I spend, I'd say at least 90% of my time focusing on the software business.
Okay. And, how did you get about your first 100 customers for Jungle Scout?
Yeah. So what I did is, I was already selling on Amazon. I was already kind of fairly well connected in different online communities, primarily Facebook groups and a little bit on Reddit. And what happened was after I developed the first like MVP version of the extension, I created just a little video, before it was released. I just teased this like in some of these Facebook groups on Reddit, and most of these people in the groups already knew who I was. And I was just like asking for feedback. I was like, hey, what do you guys think about this? What do you change? What would you change? What do you like? What don't you like? Et cetera, et cetera. And then I also just added on that, like, hey, if you would be interested in this, you can enter your email address here and I'll let you guys know when it's released. And from that, this seems very small to me now, but at the time, I think I got like 100 or 200 email addresses, which was a great start for me. That was a win for me at the time. From that, I think I acquired my first 10 or 20 customers from that initial email list. And then from there, most of my growth, let's say to get from that 10 to 20 up to, let's say, about 1,000 was through doing demos and webinars for other people kind of in the industry, more specifically people who were teaching others how to sell on Amazon.
Got it. And, what I wanted to understand about your MVP, were you creating did you have an Excel sheet of large amount of Amazon products, and had you listed as on a Chrome extension? Is that how you got about it, or
that's more or less correct. At the time, what I was doing is I had a spreadsheet that I would fill out, and essentially what it looked like was, for any of the listeners who are familiar with the Chrome extension, you can still see that it looks a little bit like a spreadsheet. There's columns and there's columns and rows worth of data. And these are the same columns and rows that I was using in my spreadsheets. But the problem was I was having to manually fill those out. So I was actually hired like some online VAs who were pretty inexpensive, but it was still taking them like 30 minutes to fill out one of these spreadsheets. And I was like, man, there has to be an easier way than this. So that's when I thought about the Chrome extension, where it's like, hey, that'd be so awesome if you could just click a little button and this whole spreadsheet was just populated within seconds. And that was ultimately what the first version of the Chrome extension was.
Okay, and what are the criteria you look at on which are the Amazon products people can replicate? Is it based on reviews, or there are a lot of other criteria for deciding if that's an Amazon product which people should look into building?
Yeah, so the two biggest things are I'm looking for products that have high demand and low competition. So the demand you understand because Jungle Scout tells you how many units per month each of these products are selling, okay? And as far as competition goes, the best gauge of competition, in my opinion, is the number of reviews, because this is essentially how long this product's been on Amazon, how well it's essentially sold on Amazon, and how much social proof this listing has. So this isn't like a direct gauge, but it's a great indicator of how competitive any given like niche or market is. So, I'm looking for something that has high sales. So let's say at least 2,000 or 3,000 sales in the niche as a whole. I'm looking for something where like in the top 10 listings that there's multiple listings with under 30 or 40 reviews. So that means it's relatively low competition. And then after that, I start to look at things like seasonality, how big this item is, make sure there's no legal issues with it, and a few things kind of like in those categories.
Okay, that's very smart. I started working on every business a couple of years back, and I viewed Jungle Scout as a Chrome extension and also as a web tool. I'm not running an FB business anymore, but do you have a different strategy for selling Chrome extension and a web tool?
They're priced differently. Like our web applications priced like a traditional SaaS product, and it's a monthly fee. The Chrome extension's done a little bit differently. Now it's a yearly fee. So you pay once, you get to keep it for a year. So they're priced differently. So as far as that goes, there's a little bit of a different strategy, but essentially like our strategy is to drive traffic to our sites, educate our customers about the benefits associated with these tools. Those are very similar. Those don't differ much from the Chrome extension and the web application.
Okay, and what's the churn rate for your web tool?
Sorry, say that one more time.
What is the churn rate for your web tool, which I believe is a SaaS product?
Yeah, the pricing is between $39 per month is our lowest fee, and $99 per month is our highest tier.
Okay. No, I want to know what is the churn rate. How many people?
Rate. I thought you said charge. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No,
yeah. For that, it kind of depends on the tier that the user is on, but it's ballpark around 10% monthly.
Oh, okay, got it. I saw that you also working on other SaaS products like Jungle Scout Marketplace, Fetcher, JumpSend, Spitly, Focusly. How are you able to maintain your focus on different SaaS products, and do you have different teams who work on these different products? And how do you, and what is your biggest focus out of all the products that you're working on?
Good question. So yeah, we have multiple SaaS products now. Some of these we acquired, other ones we've built, and yes, long story short, we have different teams that work on different products. The Jungle Scout products have the largest amount of resources and the largest amount of my focus on them. And then long term, we don't know all the details associated with it, but we would of course like to consolidate these into kind of less tools instead of having so many.
Okay, got it. I got to know about Jungle Scout from the $1 million case study. What was the $1 million case study about, and how did it help you get more customers?
Yeah, great question. So the $1 million case study is the best piece of content that we've ever produced at Jungle Scout. And what it is there's 4 seasons of it now. And it's a fully transparent case study where we build and scale a physical products business to $1 million in revenue. So now we've done 4 seasons. So we have 4 different products. We did one in the UK and the other 3 products are in the US. And so we show you what our products are. We show you how to do the research. We show you how to launch your products and build your listings and literally it's 100% transparent. So we show you everything along the lines of what it takes to grow and build one of these businesses. I think we're just a little bit shy of the $1 million mark now. I think we're at maybe $800,000 or $900,000 in revenue. And all of the profits from that are actually donated to Pencils of Promise to build underprivileged schools around the world. So it's a really cool thing to be a part of because, it's a fantastic piece of educational content and it's done for a good cause.
No, absolutely. That's pretty smart. Greg, FBA, Amazon, when you as a marketplace can dictate about whether your business is going to run on the platform or not. What do you think is the future of FBA? Do you think it's 2019 is still the right time to get into FBA? And because you have a lot of other SaaS products which are working on Amazon FBA. So now how do you mitigate that risk? And what are your thoughts on Amazon FBA going ahead?
I'm still really bullish on Amazon FBA. The number of sellers are definitely growing as to be expected, but so are the number of sales and the number of customers. Amazon releases in their quarterly reports the amount that their sales are growing on the marketplace. And it's just crazy, their growth. So there are more sellers, but there's also tons of more buyers and more volume going through Amazon. And one of the other interesting trends I've picked up on over the past year or so is that Amazon's actually trending more towards a marketplace and less so towards Amazon selling these products one piece, so them selling these products themselves. And if you would have asked me a year or two ago, I would have thought for sure that Amazon long-term would want to get rid of all the third-party sellers and they just want to sell all these products themselves. But I think what they've realized is that it can oftentimes even be more profitable for them to just have their third-party sellers. It increases selection. I think it drives additional competition, which drives down prices. And ultimately, these are all the things that Amazon cares about. So I actually think, if you had me back on the podcast 2 or 3 years from now, that, right now there's about 55% of sales on Amazon come from third-party sellers. I would guess in a couple of years from now, that's actually going to be 70 or maybe even 80%. So it's trending more towards a third-party marketplace, which is really good news for us as third-party sellers.
Correct. I think Amazon makes around more than $2 billion from subscription-based app, which I believe is the premium app. Correct.
What do you mean by? I'm not sure which app you're talking about of theirs.
For the sellers, I think there's a Amazon seller dashboard. In order to access. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess they charge you $40 per month to be a professional seller. From that, you get to kind of use their tools included in that. Oh, sorry. Was your question more so focused on is this a good opportunity for SaaS tools or a good opportunity for physical product sellers?
For physical product sellers, because
Okay.
If I'm not wrong, there are around 10,000s of Amazon sellers, and just focusing on one channel can be very risky. So I was just wondering, is Amazon FBA going to be the future going ahead, or because Amazon does get to dictate a lot of other things. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my personal opinion, when I look into my crystal ball, I think Amazon is the future. If we look at, so Amazon has the largest share of e-commerce sales, especially in North America. It's a little bit different in some other regions, but North America, depending on what numbers you look at, we're talking about 50 or 60% of sales happen on the Amazon marketplace. Whereas the next largest marketplace is eBay, 6%. And then Walmart and Target and some of these other ones, they're all even smaller than eBay. So, I mean, we're talking about a true, just 800-pound gorilla here, right? No one is even close. And I just don't see anyone catching up anytime soon. One of the real competitive advantages that Amazon has is their fulfillment network. And they're just light years ahead of anyone else from building out a fulfillment network that now is able to offer like same day or next day delivery in most parts of the US. So, I mean, I think the future is in Amazon. Like a lot of our sellers will be worried about having all their eggs in that basket per se. So, they don't want to, they're worried about 100% of their sales going through Amazon. But then what oftentimes I see happen is like they diversify into Walmart, into Jet, into something else. And then but what they, like when I talk to them 6 or 12 months later, it's like, okay, well, now 99% of my sales are coming from Amazon and 1% are coming from these other marketplaces. So then I think they have to ask themselves like, all right, like if it's only 1% or 5% anyway, like, is it really even worth your distraction and like your like loss of focus on what's actually making you all your money? You know what I mean? So that's the way I think about it. I would prefer to just stay focused instead of diversify and have, 3% of my sales somewhere else. That just seems kind of silly.
Got it. So Greg, since you spend 80 to 90% of your time building working on a software company, my question is, can a non-technical founder, somebody who's a business guy, somebody running his MBA, can he build a software company and be successful?
Yes, I mean, I was able to do it. I'd say I have some tips for non-technical founders. The first one would be try to build the least complex, like the most simple product that you can to start. So, I started with a Chrome extension and I didn't I wish I could come on your podcast and say like, oh, as a genius, I knew to do that, blah, 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 blah. But this was totally just luck that I started with a Chrome extension. But the benefit of that was I was able to build something very simple that didn't take that many developer resources. And I was able to charge money from that and start making some money right off the bat. And that's the money that I use to fund the Jungle Scout web application. So, like to build a pretty complex web application, it's like now we have 30 or 40 developers, that, developers get paid quite a bit of money. So we're talking about like, millions and millions of dollars now to just continue to develop our web application. And some of that goes to our Chrome extension too. But what I'm getting at here is it's very expensive to do. And that's why VC funding and everything else exists. But if you can build something very small and simple, start selling that to generate money, then you can start thinking about, or then you can use that cash to kind of build the next thing, as opposed to being reliant on outside funding or to really spend a lot of money to build something that hasn't really been proven that people will actually purchase it. So that's the biggest tip. The second tip I have is just to get like a basic understanding of how software is built. And I'm not talking about how to learn code. I'm not talking about learning how to code here, but if you can just have a basic understanding, it makes it way easier to work with developers. So I think those are the two biggest areas.
Okay, and are you still bootstrapped, or you got funded?
Yeah, we're still bootstrapped.
Okay, and if I may ask, how much did it cost you to build a Chrome extension?
The very first Chrome extension was cheap. It was only, I think, like a few $1,000s. That being said, it was pretty crappy, for lack of a better word. It's nothing like, you wouldn't recognize it anymore. But that being said, it did. I mean, like people did purchase it, right? It provided enough value to the customer that they were willing to spend money to purchase it. So it was very simple. It was a little bit buggy, but it, like I said, provided enough function and value to customers that they were willing to spend money on it.
Okay, and so Greg, you also run a remote company. So why remote? And and are you still a remote company now?
Yeah, good question. So we started out fully remote.
Okay.
At the beginning of last year in 2018, we decided to open up some offices. So now we have an office in Austin, Texas, and that's where I live. We have an office in Vancouver in Canada, and we recently opened up an office in Shenzhen in China. And now I'd say about half of our company works from one of our 3 offices, and the other half of our company works remotely. So we just as remotely worked really well for us. Let's say when we're less than like 30 or 40 people. Now we're up around the 100-person mark. And there were some challenges and stresses that I was feeling, mostly around communication with that many remote people. And I think now the system we have built works out really well. So we still do hire some remote people, but it's dependent on the specific role. So most of our managers are inside of offices. Some of our individual contributors, especially people like customer support reps or some of our developers, there's just like some roles that work a lot better for remote, and other roles that we've found that it's beneficial to be sitting in the same office.
Okay, and why Shenzhen?
We've seen like just a large pickup of kind of like Amazon selling inside of China, and that's kind of the hot spot inside of China right now. So that office is primarily around marketing and just kind of like helping our Chinese customer base.
Oh, okay, got it. And I want to talk about the supplier database. I think it's a new product that you launched on Jungle Scout.
Yeah, so the supplier database is a piece of functionality inside of our Jungle Scout web application. We just released it last week, and the early feedback from our customers has just been phenomenal. So the coolest part about it is you can actually see what factories your competitors are using. Okay. So what we've done is we've gathered a whole bunch of trade data. We've gotten it from the US government. And from this trade data, they have like essentially all of the bill of ladings, so they can see what factory is exporting the goods and who's purchasing those goods, and things like the quantity of the shipments and how often they make shipments. So now what you can do is you can find like the top rated product on Amazon. And, so like, for example, if I wanted to start selling marshmallow sticks, I could go find the top rated marshmallow stick product on Amazon, and then I could just see who their factory was, and then I could reach out and use that same factory. So it's super cool. Before you had to do something like go on Alibaba and search through Alibaba and contact all these different factories to try to find a good one. Whereas now it's much easier to find a high quality factory because you already know like what kind of reviews their products are getting. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that's total disruption, man. But is it a paid product, or you're giving the data for free for now?
You get the functionality included with your web app subscription. So even if you're just on the $39 per month plan, then that's included in that. You don't have to pay any additional money for it.
Okay, and somebody wants to get on Amazon FBA. What are the categories you would suggest somebody to get into, and they want to run a sweet side hustle for say $10,000 a month?
Yeah, so the only categories that I don't like very much are very like complex products, electronics products, or anything that people really like having like a brand name or like have a brand allegiance to. So a lot of that are things like watches or some clothing or shoes. It's more often people prefer to have kind of like the brand names or the big brands for those products. But anything else that's just like simple and almost more of just like a commodity style product, I think those are all good categories.
Okay, and what's the next big thing for Jungle Scout? Are you going to still keep on building more products, and are you looking for next round of funding?
Yeah, we're not going to be launching additional products, like building like new brands or new SaaS applications. We're really just focusing on making all the stuff that we currently have much better. So yeah, that's what we're kind of like focused on. We have a lot of exciting things, especially inside of Jungle Scout. They're going to be rolled out the first half of this year. So yeah, it's going to be a really exciting time for the company.
Awesome. So let's quickly do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
Top one that comes to mind is called Scaling Up. I just read it a few weeks ago, and it's a great book.
Okay. And, what is the one thing you would have focused on if you could go back in time when you started working on a business?
I wish I invested more heavily in Jungle Scout earlier. When I first started Jungle Scout, I was confused whether or not I should just continue to work on my Amazon FBA business or whether I should work on the software business more. And I kind of like teeter-tottered back between those for quite a long time. And I wish I would have like just gone all in on the software earlier, because what I realized it's just something I'm more passionate about. It's like, it's more fun for me to run this company.
Okay. And what made you really decide, did the sales go above your FBA numbers?
It actually wasn't monetarily driven. So if I would have continued to focus on my Amazon business as much as I did on software all the way today, I think I actually would have made more money from it. But for me, I'm kind of like beyond the point of being really worried about kind of like how much money I make, because I also live a fairly simple life. So for me, it's just like, what am I most excited to just jump out of bed about in the morning? And for me, the software company has more challenges. It's just like more just kind of, I have to learn more new stuff, and that kind of thing brings me a lot of joy.
Interesting. And what's your favorite online tool apart from Jungle Scout?
I think this one probably gets mentioned a lot, but I couldn't live without Slack. That's how our whole company communicates. So probably Slack or Zoom.
Slack or Zoom, okay. And what's the best way people can reach out to you and know more about Jungle Scout?
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about Jungle Scout, just check out junglescout.com. If you want to learn how to start selling on Amazon FBA, I would encourage you to go to our free resources and check out the $1 Million Case Study. It's a really good piece of content. I'm also pretty active still on writing on the blog there. And if you want to follow me personally, you can check out my Instagram. It's G_Mercer. I post on there quite a bit.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Greg. It was awesome speaking to you.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Life Self-Mastery podcast, where we teach you how to start and grow your online business. For more information, visit Rohit's blog at www.lifeselfmastery.com.